Certified Coach Christina.
Hello, thank you for joining me on another episode of Conversations with Coach. I am your host, certified mindset and confidence coach, Christina Callaway. I partner with athletes, parents, coaches, and organizations, helping them to identify their obstacles and overcome them so that they can improve in their performance. And I also use tools to help to develop and increase their confidence and reach their goal, to help them reach their goals both on and off the field of play. Does the name McLoughlin Brothers ring a bell? Well, in the 1880s, they were credited for innovating the coloring book. They produced the Little Folks Painting Book in collaboration with Kate Greenaway. And they continued to publish coloring books until the 1920s when they became a part of the Milton Bradley Company. That's a little known fact. And you might be wondering, well, what is all this talk about coloring books, Coach Christina? Oh, I'm glad you asked. On this episode of Conversations with Coach, I am joined by Cara Waters, an emerging adult coloring book publicist. You heard me right. Adult coloring books. Now, I am one of those individuals who enjoys coloring. To me, it is relaxing. And during the pandemic, I was given my very first box of skin tone Crayola crayons, and I was over the moon. Over the moon. Coloring reduces stress and anxiety, as I mentioned, and it does that not just for me, but for others as well. And while some may believe coloring is for kids, you may be intrigued to know coloring books were originally created for adults. Yes. So speaking of kids, the average child wears down 720 crayons by their 10th birthday. That's how come things don't seem to bother kids that much, because they know how to relax and get rid of their stress. They are wearing down 720 crayons. However, color pencils can last your entire life. If you use these often, you may find yourself restocking. You may be surprised to learn there have been colored pencils discovered that were over 100 years old, and they could still be used perfectly. If you're looking for long-term pencils, invest in high quality ones that won't dry out or become faded over time. Now, I seem like I am just a well of knowledge and information when it comes to crayons. Don't let that fool you. That means I just did my homework about my guest. And as I mentioned, my guest on this episode, Cara Waters, is an emerging coloring book publicist. And let me tell you a little bit more about her before I bring her out. Her pen name is KD Waters of Waterworks Books. I just love that company name, Waterworks. So cool. And she's an artist and an illustrator who loves creating fun, engaging coloring books for children and adults. As a former social worker, she understood the importance of positive self-talk and reinforcement of healthy, hopeful copying strategies. With affirmations throughout her books and her YouTube channel, she hopes to encourage others to be vulnerable, reach out for help, and remember, we don't have to go it alone. As a former salon owner and stylist, she knows the importance of carving out time for reflection, self-care, and relaxation, because you get all of those when you're getting your hair done. And it's her prayer that her coloring book will provide hours of fun, encouragement, and stress relief. She's a follower of Jesus, a loving wife, proud mother, beloved daughter, and blessed friend. And she's also a professional singer, songwriter, recording artist, author, and entrepreneur. And I know her because she's from my hometown, Athens, Georgia. And I actually knew Cara before she was born because her mom and dad were my best friends. So without further ado, welcome our guest, Miss Cara Waters.
Hey, you made me tear up a little bit. You played with me before I knew I was me. That's amazing.
I did.
Especially when you look at you. You look like you just got here.
I know, I'm aging myself, but that's okay. That's okay.
With grace.
It's okay, right? Listen, so I'll just share with the audience. When I was growing up, I was a little girl, like between the ages of 3 and 5. And Cara's mother and dad lived right down the street from my family home. And anytime my mom couldn't find me, she would call down to Cara's parents and say, "Is Tina down there?" And they would be like, "Yes." And so that lets you know that we are from a really small town. And even being from a small town, it's not like it was back then. And we know that. Like if I were growing up now, like that would not have happened. My mother would have been like, "No, you are not wandering down to someone's house who's about 5 houses away. You will get taken down there." But that was how it was. And they were, and I remember when your mom, Miss Kathy, said that she was pregnant with you. And I got a little jealous. I was like, "Does that mean I'm not going to be your little girl anymore?"
I never knew that. That's so sweet. Well, they love you. Daddy was in February, but they always talk about how sweet you were and how they enjoyed being your buddy.
They really they were and it's so funny because when you're that young, the world just looks so different, and no one could not tell me that Mr. John and Miss Kathy weren't my friends because I was like them.
They really were.
They really were.
Y'all were friends.
Well, I am so proud of you. Let's just start that out by saying I am so proud and so excited for this. And yes, everyone, I actually do have my cousin, and it is phenomenal. Let me just tell you, I have so enjoyed going through it. And to your point of it being inspirational, encouraging, and motivational. And I'm almost like, do I want to color inside of this?
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Yes, you do. It's made for you to color. And I give you 2 of each picture. Did you notice? I did that on purpose because I'm that person. I'm like, oh, I just don't want to mess with it. Or I figured if you have a child in mind that you might want to color with, you both can choose the same picture. You don't have to fight over it. Nobody has to give up a picture that they want.
I absolutely love. Now, I gave some facts because I had to do my homework. I know that I love coloring.
I learned some things.
Did you learn some things?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Because I know I did.
Very impressive.
I really did. Yeah. And when I tell you how much I love coloring, and I am not a discriminant of what the book is like. I am so glad to have your 250 pages to occupy me. But honey, I will go in a dollar store and pick up a Mickey Mouse coloring book in a heartbeat. Yes, I will.
Yes. Yeah, they're amazing. So I wasn't sure like how long to make it. And I don't know if you're ready for me to start talking about like how it became a thing or
that's you go right ahead.
Okay. So I have loved to draw my whole life. I never thought of it as like, oh, I'm an artist. It was just a hobby. It was just something that I like to do when I had some downtime, and it made me feel better. It's like singing for me, and like even listening to music, like you just express something that's kind of in your heart and in your mind, and then it's outside of you. And it's like, that feels good. And then you move on and do the next thing. But I never thought of it as a practical thing to do, just like with music. So now all of my jobs are the things that I thought were just for fun. And it's because the Lord drew me in and was like, will you trust me enough to just do the things I made you to do? But we'll talk about that later. So I was working on, and you interrupt me at any time.
Listen, you keep talking.
So I was working on one for the first time. I was like, okay, I think I'll try it. So I researched a lot. YouTube is a wonder. I thank God for all the technology, but YouTube is a blessing for me. So I researched how people went about doing it because wonderfully with Amazon, now we can publish our own books and audiobooks and all these different things that you used to have to go through an agent and then find a publishing company and all of that. So to find that it's really a lot more simple than I would have thought, I was just like, let me just try my hand at just a little small one, kind of like those that you were talking about that you see at the dollar store, just really short, sweet, easy, kind of larger pictures at first. And then I was like, but there's not as much out there. There's more now than there used to be, but there's still not enough out there with women, and especially that features women of color. Where before you put color there, you can tell from the features that this is a diverse group of people. I'm all for everybody, and I want pictures of everybody everywhere, and I want us to have choices. So I had started to work on one about fashion, and again, it featured women of color, and I was loving it. It was so much fun, and my brother called me. I was like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm working on my first coloring book. He was like, that's crazy. I said, why is that crazy? He said, because I was just talking to somebody in a meeting, and we were talking about how great coloring is, and it might be great for some of our people on the bases. My brother works for the military, and he worked on different bases, and now he works at the Pentagon. And
I didn't realize that.
Yes. So he oversees and supports the people who work directly with people who have all kinds of different things like drug addiction, substance abuse, any kind of spousal abuse, all the different things that go wrong in the home and on a base. They show up and they help people and they love people and they try to help them to heal, and suicide prevention, all of that. So he was like, would you consider making one about like the military? I said, I would love to. I just have never been, such a girly girl. You know this.
Yes.
I'm a cool girl. So I'm all about like clothes, makeup, girls, and the things that we love. I had never tried to draw boy things. Now, for my children, I bought them girl stuff, boy stuff for both of them, because I wanted them to be, have a wider expanse of ideas and just to broaden their horizons. But I just never colored or drew trucks and, planes and ships. Right. And so this was like a whole undertaking, and it kind of scared me. I was like, what did I say yes to? I don't even know where to begin. So I had to do what you did so thoroughly, research. I had just started looking at what these things even look like. We've all seen it, whether it's in movies or just like on little small things we've seen on TV or in classrooms. But to be able to draw it, I didn't know where to begin. So that was the first step, just a whole lot of research. And then I had to decide, like, am I going to make it for children or am I going to make it for adults? Right. Like, well, why not do both? So I made it for children and adults. So what I did was choose things that would be engaging for everybody. Some things are going to be something that will draw a child's eye more quickly or more easily. Other things are going to draw a woman's eye or an adult's eye, a man or a woman. And I made sure that as I was drawing the soldiers, pull in a lot of different ideas. Like, all people who are in leadership are not men.
No.
All people who are in the military are not one race. So I tried to, even though it's just drawing like an outline for people to color, I've tried to leave a lot of space so that it can be whatever people want it to be, or the person can be like somebody they know or something like that. The only one that is a little more rigid was this beautiful picture that I loved from the Space Force being brought to light. And there was this beautiful Black woman in this Space Force suit, and she just looked impeccable to me. So I did use her as my.
Now, where would I find her in here?
I can't remember what page it is now, Christina, but I think it's near the end, and it's just a more close-up picture, and she's in her Space Force uniform, and in the bottom right corner it says Space Force. She's also in the cover on the top middle. She's on that. Here. Yeah, but it's more detailed up close. And I had to try to get that one.
This is her right in here.
Yeah, she's right there in the middle. Right under the
yeah. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I
so
love
how that got made. and he was telling me about words that were kind of catchphrases or words that were being pushed home, like resiliency and like
Yep.
understanding the importance of that. And, like just being able to be open to vulnerability and
Yeah.
encouraging one another with it's okay, whatever it is,
Like
it's
the
okay.
word bravery.
Yes.
Yes.
Some of these things that are so important and have always been are just not like talked about in a light that is honoring and seeing
Right.
important. Yeah, there she is. That's the closest to like a specific person that we got in that one.
Oh
I
my
just really was
goodness.
excited to see that photo a long time ago.
I love, love, love this idea, and just you sharing and bringing it to life on the birthing of it, God giving you the inspiration for it, the confirmation coming through your brother who's
Yes.
in a whole nother area, having no idea that this thought is going,
Right.
and just being able to say to God, okay, I hear you. And it's almost like God dropping that little nugget when we have those self-doubts,
Mhm.
that God drops those nuggets to say, I got you, because I know you're doubting whether
Yes.
or not this is
Yes.
me. So
Yes.
I'm going to prove to you it is, because you've not had this conversation with anyone else, and you certainly haven't had it with your
Absolutely.
brother. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to, when you're mentioning it to him, I'm going to make it so that he has already planted the seed where he works. And I absolutely love, love, love. Now, when I was giving I guess the background, all of the good details about coloring, I mentioned about it being a stress reliever, and about it make just giving you that permission, I guess is a good word to call it, a permission just to escape.
Yes.
And things that are at peace or at rest, they grow. It's like
Yes.
giving them the permission to grow. I want you to talk to the audience along the lines of you're in timeout, and how that time is preparing the soil for growth.
I love that. You're in timeout, but in a good way. And so, one of the ideas that I feel like the Lord constantly brings before me is the fact that if He Himself, who is God, the creator of everything, and is not made of flesh, even Jesus, who was made of flesh, is renewed. He's made new now. So he's in glorified flesh. And the other two are totally spirit. So if they needed or chose to rest, why would I think I, in this flesh suit, don't need to rest? Why do I
Right.
think that I don't need refreshing and renewal?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful that there are lots of ways that we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the most important things is to allow your mind to be at rest, to be still. Some people get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of relief from exercising, and that's great. That's a thing that is
Right.
important, and we always want that to be a thing that we do. But
Mm-hmm.
there is something different that you get from being still, being quiet. And whether that means you have some music on in the background, or even have the TV playing, as long as you can be in a space where you're not being pulled on, not
Mm-hmm.
being, having something demanded from you. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
just needs a minute. Everybody needs some
Mm-hmm.
time out. So
Everybody needs
it
some
is
time out.
an act of faith to take that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that until he kept calling me to do it. And
Yeah.
whatever that looks like for anybody, do it, because it does make such a difference in your life.
It makes a huge difference in our lives. And in the times that we live in now, where everyone is constantly on the go, it's like you're coming and leaving at the same time.
Right.
What would you share with that person who's viewing right now, or possibly maybe watching the rebroadcast of this?
Mhm.
What would you say to them when they say, okay, Cara, I hear you, and I'm all about being about this rest time? Where am I going to carve it from? Because you are a person, as I was reading your bio, you are not a person who sits down and twiddles her thumbs.
Right.
Y'all, on a side note, I'm just gonna pause right here. This woman has an angelic voice and has tons of CDs out there. And so you need to be buying some. She needs to be in your rotation, because she is a beautiful and anointed singer, and you will not be sorry that you purchased that. Now, getting us back on track.
Thank
What
you
would you
so
say
much.
to? You're so welcome. What would you say to that person that's like, okay, Cara, I hear you. I just don't have time to carve out.
I know. And I want to say this as respectfully as possible, because I know that the people who would feel that way, I don't want it to seem like I'm being flippant at all, or like this is easy. It's just necessary. What we know that is necessary, we just make it work. Especially women. Like, we know how to make it work. We've been doing it and we keep doing it. Make it happen for you.
Right.
Because you'll make it happen for everybody else.
As women,
and I
that's
know
what
some
we
gentlemen
do.
who are the same way. You will make it happen for everybody. Even if you feel like you don't have any more to give. If somebody calls you that you love, you make it happen. You find it somewhere. So let it be that we do what the Lord said, where he said, love others as you love yourself. That means you have to love who first?
Yourself. That's it.
It's not always easy, because we tell ourselves we don't have time, but there are, thank God, it always doesn't feel like a blessing, but we have a finite amount of time every day allotted to us.
Absolutely.
So we have to be honest with what we can get accomplished in that time. And then we have to shift things accordingly to take care of ourselves first, to be able to, from a spring, a wellspring from the Lord, be able to do for others. Not out of our, lack or our leftover. Yes. Yeah. So it's not that I don't understand the idea of I don't have it to give. I just think it's a lie from the enemy. It's just a lie. Because he wants to keep us tired. It's great for people who don't want you to succeed, or for the enemy himself to continue to make you think you don't have it to give to yourself. Because then you'll stay weary, you'll stay wrung out and not able to be the strong, wonderful you that you really were made to be. Absolutely. So I get it, but it's just time for some reorganizing. Like you said, I do carry a lot of things and I wear a lot of hats, but not at the same time.
There you go.
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
Ask me how I know, because I tried it.
You tried it, as we all have at one time or another. So that brings me to the next question, because of the fact when you were mentioning in the beginning, and you were talking about that you had the idea and you kind of went to God and thought, people are going to think I'm crazy. And who's going to want to do an adult coloring book and, all of that. How would you address that in terms of daring to grow, like expanding and expressing yourself and using all of your God-given talents? Talk about daring to grow.
I will say it this way. This thought just came to me. How dare we not? Everything that is living is growing. Everything that stops growing dies.
That's right.
So we don't have that choice. And maybe that will be helpful to somebody. Maybe that's why that popped into my brain, because I never thought about it that way. But it's true. How dare we not continue to be alive, thrive, and be who you were made to be? We are not our own. Believe it or not, we are not our own. And we were created for wonderful things that are life-giving. So what that meant for me was I had to put down some good ideas, some things that I thought were good to do, and they were loving, they were thoughtful, they would have been blessings to people. But if it wasn't what the Lord had in mind for that season, it would not have been good even for them.
Not even for them.
The Lord knows when people can handle the blessings that they get, even through one another. And when we give people things, even from ourselves, out of time, we end up hurt because they don't receive it well. They don't appreciate it like they should, or they don't use it the way that they're intended. So it's just not worth it. that's the thing I had to lay down. Like, it's just not worth it. So why am I doing all this?
Yeah.
So write down all the things that you do. This is what I did. I wrote down everything that I was doing, everything I cared about, everything that I knew was pulling at me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it ended up being not necessary.
Isn't that so true,
season had
though?
passed. I just was holding
Oh,
on.
oh, stop right there. Mm-mm. You said the season had passed.
The season had passed.
The season had passed.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we don't recognize our life seasons like we do environmental seasons.
Absolutely.
Like right now we are transitioning into fall. We happen to live in an area where we physically will see the change going from fall, like
yes,
where the days are getting shorter, it gets darker
yes,
sooner. The temperature gets a little bit more chill in the morning before
yes,
it warms up in the afternoon. But even the warmth of the fall warmth feels different than the summer warmth.
it does.
And then right now the leaves are green, but in just a matter of weeks, they're going to change.
That's right.
And then you think about the transition from fall into winter, and things, get a little bit more into their, what I like to call that good soil, where you don't see the growth happening because it's underneath. And so that's that hibernation.
Mm-hmm.
The trees are completely bare then, and the air is very cold for most people in the regions that they live in. Right. And then as we're coming up out of winter and we're going into spring, that's when the rebirth happens. Yes. And so to your point of daring to grow, it's how do we dare not to? Because yes. if God who clothed the fields with lilies,
yes,
if he cared that much to adorn a field with lilies, yes. he definitely cares about us. And he won't get, like you said, this was God-given, God-inspired. And we are to steward over it. So what better way than to go back to the person who gave it to us and say, hey, okay. And like you said, do this list. What things have the season has ended in it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like to think about the fact that if you are doing something past the season that you were intended to do it, you're now sitting in somebody else's seat. Please, it's not even just about you. Now that it's for somebody else to do, and you're in their way. So you're not only stunting your own growth, now you're stunting somebody else's growth.
Absolutely. Amen to that. That is an excellent point to make. And I hope you all will play this back, and that you will let it just put that part on just repeat, because a lot of times we don't think about seasons ending, but we sure don't think about us being in someone else's way, keeping That's them right. from doing what they need to do. So that was very good. And being a mindset coach, that just that hit me real good right there, because it's a mindset shift, understanding when your season is up and accepting it so that you can go to your next and your greater. Now, you ventured out on this after getting the confirmation that your brother was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. We were just talking about that. And so now you're moving forward. A misnomer that a lot of people have is that, number one, there's no fear involved in taking on things that are bigger than what you can see. And you and I both know that is an absolute lie from the devil. There's you doing it shaking. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, a lot of times we will work our way out of what God is asking us to do, because we'll say things such as, not in addition to, I don't have the time, I don't have the resources, I don't have the money. I wanted to, before we've got just a few more minutes before we wrap up, yes. but I wanted to have you to talk about overcoming the objections to move forward. Like, what would you do if money were not an object?
Yes. So that is what I ask friends or clients who have the same reasoning or excuse that we were talking about before, where I just don't have the time, or what would you do if money was not an object? If you had all the money in the world, if I could give you $1 million, what would you do with your days if you no longer had to work? And not that $1 million would be enough for life, but you know what I mean? So what we usually end up doing is sifting when we have that thought process, we sift, and what is remaining is the gold, the things that make our hearts sing. And I thank God that he challenged me to trust him enough, to have faith enough to just try all of the things that he put in my heart to do. And because some of it, really all of it was, if you wrote it down, when I did write it down, it all looked like hobbies.
Oh.
So it felt like, oh, a lot of people sing. Who gets to do that as like who makes money weekly for singing? There are great singers all over America in all kinds of churches. And they are amazing. And but they don't all get paid to do it. So I wouldn't have just assumed that until he told me, dare to trust me. Dare to try. I'm not telling you to know all the answers when you start. I'm just asking you to believe that I have the answer. I am the answer.
That's good.
So I was like, okay, you're going to have me out here looking crazy. People going to be like, oh, you just always doing something. You know, you have all these what they're gonna say in your mind. I found out, is me.
I was just getting ready to say that. I know
most people are not thinking about me that much.
I just told somebody that this past weekend. We are not that important.
True.
We're not to the extent where, to your point, it keeps us from moving forward. The fear becomes so paralyzing that we don't move forward.
That's right.
And that was excellent. That was so very good. I did the call to action already.
Great. But
I want to do it again because now you're on here. And this is where everyone can find Cara. She's on Facebook and Instagram at I Am Cara Waters. She's also on YouTube, Release and Realign. And
let me tell you about that.
Yes.
I just thought about, I don't remember, I think I told you that it's something that my cousin Wesley and I do together. And Wesley Summers is an amazing human. Maybe we didn't talk about it much. So again, the Lord put something in my heart. In 2020, we were among the first, we were among some of the people who had COVID in my house. So like Christmas, I spent alone in my room while my family was downstairs trying not to get it from me. And they got it anyway. Because it's not, like we have all the same filters going through I mean, of course, they still got it, but we were trying not to spread it.
Of course, doing your best, right.
But that was Christmas. I love Christmas. I couldn't see my parents. Like it was so hard. And then I had it the worst of everybody. A couple of days after I got sick and found out I had it, my family got sick, but that wasn't until maybe like 2 days after Christmas that we all could at least be together. But spending that time alone, even with people in the house, but nobody can touch me, nobody can hug me and reassure me. We can FaceTime. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
And the Lord himself comforted me, but he also led me to find these amazing recordings that people have made on Spotify, on YouTube. Some of them were prayers.
Right.
And some are affirmations. But the prayer, I should have written down the name of it. But anyway, the prayer that helped me the most after I came through it, and that helped me so much to get through it without fear, or I'll say with less fear, because it was scary. This was before there was a vaccine, before people understood what was going on. And I have some of the predispositions that they say are dangerous. We knew like 10 people who had passed away. So it was terrifying. So I had to stay anchored, not to be afraid and not to fear, not to take all the possibilities in to who I am. So I sang a lot. I listened to a lot of music, and I listened to especially one prayer that prayed from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, all the different, systems in the body. And it helped me so much that when I came out on the other side of that, I was like, I want to do that for people. So that was when I decided in my heart, I was like, Lord, I'm going to just lay this before you. I feel like this is something that you're kind of bringing alive in me.
Yes.
I've always sang, and I'll sing for anybody, but talking, I feel country. That's what the devil does.
Beautiful voice to me.
That's what the devil does. Whatever God has made to use, if he can trick you into hating it, then you won't use it.
You
not as easily.
Yeah, you better say that.
Yes. So that was how affirmations came to be. But I still didn't have but my piece. I didn't know anything about videography, and I didn't know how to begin a podcast. So I was like, Lord, I don't know which way you want me to do it. But again, I'm laying this before you. I'm
Yeah.
willing. I just need for you to give me direction. And I went to a family reunion. My cousin, who's a videographer for ESPN, of
Oh,
course. I didn't even think to ask
yes.
anybody. I just didn't know where to start. So I was just
Won't
like,
he
here,
put all
Lord,
the
I don't know.
resources around you?
He came to me and he was like, so what are you working on now? I told him about the coloring book. I told him about my first children's book, which is something I'm working on.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I told him I also want to do affirmations. I don't know if I'm going to do it on YouTube or a podcast, but I want to do it. He was like, that's so funny, because I was going to ask you if, you had done anything like that, because I want to do affirmations. And I was like, what? So it was just such a God moment. Like you said before, he goes before us for everything that he
Oh,
gives you a vision.
everything.
He gives
Yes,
you provision in spades. He makes it easy for us to
everything.
follow him. So we started talking and we started making them. And so there are only a few up there. We've only been doing it, just weeks. And my cousin actually put one that he did. He actually recorded one too, just
Uh,
last night. And it is amazing. It's amazing. So yeah, I adore what happens when we speak the Lord's word out loud. When we say what he
absolutely.
says about us back to him and to ourselves, it is life-changing. So yeah,
Yes.
so that's what the affirmations are about, and that's where they came from.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. I
Yes.
absolutely love it. And what I love even more than that is you being able to share with the audience how even when there is that self-doubt that is coming in to sabotage whatever the vision, whatever the dream that has been placed in us, that God comes immediately right behind and says, no, no, may not look the way you thought it was going to be, but this is
Mhm.
me, and here is a confirmation. Having said that, we have to make sure that we position ourselves in such a way that we can hear him and be able to receive from him. And one of the ways that you're going to be able to do that is to de-stress. And to de-stress, you're going to purchase Cara's coloring books. Again,
Amen.
I already mentioned to you these would be great, great Christmas gifts. That
Yes.
Christmas is coming up, and you can be supporting Cara and her business, as well as helping someone else to channel their inner youth.
Yes.
Because we now think of coloring books or associate coloring books with children.
Mhm.
But I already told you that coloring books were originally created for adults. Cara, tell everyone how they can order your book, the coloring
It's
book.
on Amazon, and I know that you put the link there, but they can look up KD Waters, and it will pop right up. KD
On
Waters on
Amazon.
Amazon.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, everyone, you all heard her. She told you exactly where you can go, where you can purchase it. So go onto Amazon and sell them out
Yes.
and buy more for other people. This would just be a great thing to gift a school teacher so that she can
Yes.
use the sheets and with her classes
Oh,
when they're
yeah.
talking about different things. I mean, I could just think of a number of different places that could benefit from you sharing this art and this work. Now, Cara, this is something that I do with all of my guests,
Okay.
and I'm going to do it with you in the
Sure.
final thoughts.
Mhm.
Okay. So, for final thoughts, what is the one mindset shift that you would like to leave with the audience as it relates to daring to grow?
The Lord gave me a motto a long time ago. It was initially for the salon that I had, and it has just carried through out of my life. And I want to share that with you, but I also would love for you to just take it on as your own. Be you, be free, be loved. You are already
Mm,
loved. You are already cared for, but you choose to love you, be who you really are, and experience the freedom that will allow you to continue to grow and to become all that you can be. You can do it. With the Lord's help, you can do it.
I absolutely love that. So you all heard her. She just gave you your marching orders to be free, be you, and be loved.
Yes.
And I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing. And this won't
Thank
be
you
the
for
last
having
time,
me.
because as soon as that children's book is done, make sure
Yay.
you let me know, because I am a reader. Everyone knows that I
Awesome.
read. I have an insatiable reading appetite, and I'm looking right now at all of the books that are on my shelves in front of me, but I'm also looking at all the number of children's books that I have on
Oh,
my
that's
shelf. So I
great.
collect those too. You don't have
Yes.
a child one, but I've got tons of coloring books and children's books.
We are all children of God, and most
Yeah.
children's books have really great messages that we all need to remember.
Period. We as adults get so busy and tainted
Mhm.
with life that we forget that simplicity and the message that
Right.
that children grasp. And
Right.
so
We
I'm
complicate
looking
everything.
everything. We do. We do. Well, thank you again for coming on, and thank you again for working through the technical difficulties and coming back
My
and finishing up
pleasure.
with us.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say goodbye to my audience, and I'll be right back with you.
Okay.
Well, there you all have it. We've come to an end of another Conversations with Coach episode, and this one has been so much fun. Just learning about the different things as it relates to pursuing your dreams that God has given you, about how not to quit, and how important that releasing and realigning yourself is. And all of that can be done just by sitting down and being still and relaxing while you color. Again, I encourage you all to go onto Amazon and to purchase her book, her coloring book. And don't just get you one copy, get you two so that you can share with someone else. And make sure that when I finish and I put things in the show notes, that you go in the show notes, you follow her on all of her social media, as well as reshare her YouTube channel so that it can grow too. Well, you all know where to find me because you're already following me. I appreciate that so much. And I would just like to ask you to share my social media with your friends and your families and help me to continue to grow. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Christina Mindset Coach. And if you are ready to explore the opportunities and possibilities of your flipping your mindset from the I can't or if I should, yes, reach out to me on my website and schedule your 15-minute free clarity call, and I would love to partner with you. Well, we've come to another end, and until next time, make sure that you remember your life is only as good as your mindset. Thank you so much for joining me, and make it a great one.
Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Coach. Please be sure to follow Coach Christina on all of her social media platforms. And remember, life is only as good as your mindset.